Hello and welcome. It looks like I am unfrozen, which is amazing. And today I'm going to talk about a theme that lately seems to be showing up with people that contact me. Hi, Dawn, that are maybe interested in my program, people that have maybe bought my masterclass, or even students in my mentorship program. And before I talk about those questions that I've lately heard, I just want to make this quick announcement that in 14 days, September 29th, we have the Release Residual Tension workshop, how you can find residual tension, how you can address it, and how you can release it. And if you think, oh, I'm not sure this workshop is for you, every horse that I have so far met, whether it's my horses that came into my life, or whether it's horses that came into my life through my students, whether it's my online classes or in-person classes, whether I was way back when a certified horsemen's association instructor, Pirelli instructor, or now out with my own program, every horse that I have seen had various forms of residual tension. Hi, Lori. Hi, Sandy. And the reason being is because the majority of the horse industry believes that the horse has to be controlled, that pressure has to be applied and is taken away in order to teach the horse. And I have found that that is a very tricky and slippery slope, because the horse ends up in self-preservation and self-protection. And then we have the annoying and frustrating and dangerous behaviors that makes our sport so dangerous. And what I would like to point out is that when your horse feels safe, secure, and confident with you, when your horse can let go of brace, tension, stress, worry, anxiety, and fear because of how you show up, who you are, what you do, and what you don't do, then our horse sport really should be like going to the mailbox. Can you stumble and fall and hurt your leg when you go to the mailbox? Absolutely, but what are the chances? When your horse looks to you for guidance, that means that your horse is not interested anymore what's happening in the environment. Your horse looks for you to say, I keep you safe. I have proven I will keep you safe, and here we are, and here's just another little something that we go through together, and I make sure we come better out on the other side. So when it comes to residual tension, now is your opportunity to grab your spot in the workshop. If you're in the mentorship, this is a workshop that is free for you. And if you are not in the mentorship, then it's just $27. You get the live workshop. We're going to meet about for a couple hours. We're going to have a Q&A. You're going to get a printable workbook, and you get the replay for life. And what I do with the replays is I put them in individual lessons, and I add some bonuses, and I add some bonus footage and features. So it's very much worth to spend $27 and to really help yourself and your horse to create that dream relationship that you are looking for. So the questions that I put into the description of our Q&A today was, am I overmounted? Is my horse the right horse for me? Am I the right person for my horse? And should I maybe sell my horse and get another horse? And that all has to do with lacking progress in general, right? Because when we have progress, when things are going well, we are not asking ourselves those questions. And when we're looking at this subject, I think the first thing that needs to happen is you need to give yourself a lot of grace, and you also need to give your horse a lot of grace, because first of all, your horse had probably had previous experiences with other people. Most horses are not bred at home, and most horses have already had a previous owner or a trainer in their life, and things have maybe previously already gone south. The horse already had poor experiences, And so depending on how we show up, what we do and what we don't do, there are two things that's going to happen. The horse will respond to what's happening right now, and the horse will respond to what has happened into the past, just like any human that had poor experiences in the past. We are looking for wanting to be safe, secure, and confident. And for the horse, that usually, if the human is not providing safety, security, and confidence for the horse looks elsewhere. The horse looks to the herd. The horse looks to get back to the barn. The horse looks to the outside and just is trying to take care of him or herself. That's why we're getting bucked off horses. That's why we're getting bitten, kicked, charged, struck, run over. Any those scary experiences that I have heard from students happen because your horse is in self-preservation and self-protection. Now here is the question: are you the person to help your horse to feel safe, secure, and confident? Are you the person that can unwind the tension that your horse has? Because brace, tension, stress, worry, anxiety is fear, is always missing relaxation, missing mental, emotional, and physical balance. And are you that person and can make this difference for yourself as well as for your horse? And so from my experience, so from going back to starting with horses, I think I was born and I wanted to be around horses. And the first picture of me being on a horse was like 4 years old at some kind of western city in Germany where there were pony rides. And the next thing then that was a major event was that I wanted to start riding, and I had to wait because our pediatrician back then said that riding was bad for children. So I started riding at 11 years of age in a very traditional German riding school. And very quickly I noticed that I did not like how the animals were being treated. I switched to a different school where the animals were taken better care of, where they had turnout, where they didn't have a stand, where they were tied, where they had at least a box stall, where they could look outside, and where there was some turnout in the indoor arena, because ground in Germany is expensive and horses a lot of times have very little space to live in. And so from there on out, I volunteered at a horse rescue, and I saw all the atrocious things that happen to horses in humans' will. And from there, I was really on this discovery on how can I have this amazing, wonderful, heart-centered relationship with my horses. And eventually I came over here to the US, and I had studied with Linda Tellington Jones instructors in Germany. When I came over here, I studied for a while with Richard Trake. He did resistance-free training way back then. And then I found natural horsemanship after a really scary riding accident. And I thought that was my solution. And many of my students that have come to me so far also went that route, then discovered that pressure and control and make the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult wasn't for them after all. And the tricky thing is, especially with natural horsemanship, you will probably make in the beginning progress, right? And then over a period of time, the progress slows down. And why is that? It's because in the beginning, the horse understands your language. Horses understand dominance. They understand that a dominant horse is asking for movement. They understand when they're more passive, non-assertive, that they automatically fold under another horse in the herd hierarchy. It all makes sense to the horse. But at some point, we're going to start about talking healthy biomechanics and proper posture and flexion and lightness and refining our communication. And that's a lot of times when students realize that we have actually caused ourselves to be in a beginner pattern because of the large motor skills that are being taught in natural horsemanship, where the rope and the stick and the string takes a majority of the communication. And we're also seeing that because of missing proper biomechanics and healthy posture, we have missing relaxation, and that's when the progress slows down. And that's when you might ask yourself, am I overmounted? Am I the right person for my horse? Is my horse the right horse for me? And I personally, from my own journey, from seeing, hundreds and thousands of students over the years, and having taught in one way or another for, I would say, probably 3 decades or something like that, I believe that the perfect horse is currently in your life. Why do I say this? Because, and I just had a conversation with a student in Messenger about that, because what happens with your horse happens in everyday life. There is always a parallel. Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't want to see it, but it's always there, because how we do one thing, most likely we do everything else. And that comes from a perspective of 4 elements that make us who we are. First of all, we're all cave women. We all want to be part of the tribe. We all want to fit in. That's why when I was at the Pirelli Ranch, there were lots of Linda Pirellis with a hair clip and the English riding pants and the socks over the English riding pants and the paddock boots, and then the chaps and for Pat and the cowboy hat. And sometimes you didn't know until somebody turned around whether they were Linda or Pat. Not. People wanted to fit in, and they wanted to show up cohesively, right? And you can, I'm sure, relate to that in your personal life. You can relate that in your work life. And we all have experienced when we were maybe shunned, or when we were pushed out of the group, or when we were put on the spot. And in general, that doesn't feel good, right? Because here's the thing, we don't feel safe. That is a very rudimentary need that we have. Just like horses, we want to feel safe. So when it comes to this first cave woman way of being a human, this happens very quickly. This is unconsciously. This is our little lizard brain that is immediately telling us what to do. And a lot of times we don't even have time to stop ourselves or to think about whether that was the right idea or not. And it is really a matter of helping ourselves to be very conscious of, why am I doing what I'm doing right now? That brings me to the next thing, our personality. You are born with certain traits that are uniquely yours. And this personality that you have, whether you're more confident or less confident, whether you're more extroverted or whether you're more introverted, that is your DNA, right? And then, depending on where you've grown up, whether your family was part of a church, of what kind of society, of what part of the world, that all plays into how you respond to the world, and what you look for and what you don't look for. I was in some very precarious situations in my life over the last 57 years. And I had a very sheltered childhood. So I am, in general, not looking out in a way where I'm thinking somebody's out to get me, right? If you had a very precarious childhood where you didn't feel safe a lot of times, then we are focusing on, I don't feel safe. I need to watch my surroundings. And that can very well then also play into how you handle your horsewomanship. And last but not least, now that we have, the story that we were born with, we have the story that we can write, and where we can be in charge of each chapter, of each book, of each page, right? And sometimes literally we have to close a book and we have to open a new one. And so how we show up, what we do, what we don't do, is what our horse responds to. And from my perspective, there's a wonderful learning opportunity for each and every one of us, for me and as well as for you, to really find our optimal personal best on this journey. Because our horse will challenge us to show up as the lead. Our horse will challenge us to set healthy boundaries. Our horse will challenge us to be aware and to live consciously and to be present and to be intentional and to look for mini and micro thresholds in our horse as well as ourselves, and to address that, and to look for mental, emotional, and physical balance. And if we're not there, how can we go back to that balance in order to continue so we can end with that balance? And last but not least, the idea of softness that creates lightness versus escalating phases. When I was a Pirelli instructor, it was phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. You started with a suggestion, then you asked, then you told, and that you promised, and you made things happen. And because you escalated those phases, your horse, rather sooner than later usually, learned what happened before what happened and was watching out for the smaller phase, because they did not like the escalating phases, because that's pressure. And so I like to teach lightness through softness. And I was just talking to a student the other day that had signed up for my masterclass a while ago. And she was telling me that she was so glad that she finally feels seen and heard and understood, because everybody used to tell her, you're too soft, you better toughen up, you let your horses get away with things. And that's just not true. If horses want to get away with anything, it is they want to feel safe, secure, and confident. And you are, and I'm just going to quote Warwick Schiller here, because I see his advertising all the time in my feed. You are the best person to train your horse, he says. Now, I want to rephrase this a little bit, because I don't like the word training, because that already puts me in a superior position that I am the trainer and I teach my horse. I believe I'm in the business of helping you to create connections. Connections with your horse, connections with yourself, connection with others. And part of having connections, part of a relationship, part of relating to others, is healthy boundaries. And I see that as a heart-centered horse lover, that is what we're struggling with the most. And that's hard work. And if you have read Angel's post, which is under the handle Lucy Matilda here in our Facebook group, she talks about her journey with Harry. And Harry's barn name was Horrible Harry. He had charged at people. One of the ladies at the property had literally thrown her 18-month-old over the fence because he came charging. He had bucked people off. He had bit people that tried to saddle him. He had ripped the tie rack out. People were afraid of him. And at the point where Angel came into my program, he had actually ran Angel over and had caused her kidney to be bruised, which, very, very scary. And she had, if I remember right, 17 or 19 stitches in her leg, and she almost got killed because Harry did, at this point, not feel safe, not feel secure, not feel confident, and wanted to go back to the herd where safety, security, and confidence was. And in situations like this, our horse literally says, I do not trust you as the lead. I'm going back to my herd. And that is just a natural thing for our horse to do. And when our horses do something like that, that graphic, you know, they buck us off, they bite us, they strike us. If you have followed Justine's journey here in the Genuine Connections Horsewomanship Support Group, her horse is Alfie. She is in the UK and also participated in my mentorship program and started out when Alfie, not Harry, had severely bitten her on the thigh when she was putting the rug on him. And it looked really, really bad. It was a big hematoma. And so, yeah, and Harry, Barbara just said, Harry even broke the farrier's hand. So now let's fast forward to who is Harry now. And Harry now is Sweetheart Harry. And a few months ago, Angela had a situation at this property where Harry is boarded. It's a huge piece of property, and suddenly, you know, the police was there, the firefighters were there, the drones were there, the sirens, the sounds, the noise, the lights, and somebody had actually died on the property, and the authorities were securing the area. And at that point, Angel was riding Harry bareback with a halter back from the pasture to the parking lot so that she could put his hoof boots on and give him his treats and give him his supplements and so on and so on. And that is usually a 20-minute walk, so why not hop on the horse and ride to the parking area because that was now available. And so did Harry have a look at the policemen and at the firefighters and at the lights and the sirens and the drones flying above and people popping their heads out of the bushes? Absolutely. And he settled, and they were able to ride by all the commotion because he trusted his human. And accomplishing from going from horse breaks hand, chases people, you know, runs people over to Sweetheart Harry, that is hard work, right? So it takes an investment. It takes an investment of time, of effort. It takes an investment of allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable. And I personally believe that we live, especially here in the US, I cannot speak so much about other countries anymore, but especially here in the US, we humans want it easy, right? We want it easy. Life is not easy, but we want it to be easy. And so, you know, this starts with something as small as I can't afford to buy a new couch, but I can make monthly payments, right? We want what we want right now. And society is all about the quick satisfaction. And I also feel it is about making other people responsible. You know, the huge amounts of settlements that people can achieve when they're suing somebody because something happened to them. And I'm not necessarily saying that that is a bad thing, because when somebody did something to you and you had a fallout because of it, then that is something very terrible. But sometimes it's also to a point where we're giving up our responsibility to be responsible for our own thoughts, our own actions, our own words, and we're just putting the responsibility on somebody else. And from my perspective, life is going to be even harder when you allow yourself to do that. Because there is certain things that we can control in our life, but life still happens. Life is still hard. People still get sick. People still die. People still lose their job. People have to move. People lose their money. Whatever it is that causes huge upset in our life, it still happens. And when we allow ourselves to see our horsewomanship as a vehicle to make life easier because of who we are, how we show up, what we do and what we don't do, you grow as a person. And nobody can do that for you. You cannot send your horse to the trainer and grow as a person. you cannot sell the horse and just, let it go down the road. Now, well, somebody else will take care of him, and then grow as a person. I, from the bottom of my heart, believe that we have our horses in our world, in our life, because they're here to teach us. And it might not necessarily be what you wanted. And we always get what we need. And I've been through it myself, and is it always easy? No, it's not easy. And I really, truly, truly believe, I thought a lot about when I was reading Angel's Post, because there's a lot of adversity, right? There is not just adversity with Harry, there is adversity in the past, there is adversity in the present, there is mental struggle, there's emotional, physical struggle, there is family dynamics, as we all have. And here we are with all the baggage in all our glory, and we still somehow want to move forward, right? Because the worst thing, in my opinion, that you can do is become stagnant and to hide in a hole. I will never forget, I was with a friend of mine, and he was in his office chair and had rolled himself in the corner of the room and had taken on a fetal position. And I stood there and I reached out and I said, here is my hand. All you got to do is grab my hand and I help you. It's all you got to do. I can't do it for you, but grab my hand and I can help you to do it. And he looked at my hand and he said, I can't. And that is a decision. That is a decision, okay? And we make those decisions when things become too hard and too overwhelming and too whatever. And I love Robert Ohado's take on that, that instead of slaying our dragons, or, I say, put them in a little box and put a pretty bow on it and put it somewhere in the back of the shelf so that we don't have to look at it. Let's hug our dragon, he says. And let's let the anger and the sadness and the grief that we sometimes feel in our horsewomanship as well as in our everyday life, let that be there as much as love and peace and understanding and joy has a right to be in our life. That's what makes us human. And I believe that when we consider giving up, we're coming from a place of fear. And when we're coming from a place of fear, we're not making good decisions. When we're coming from a place of love for ourselves, with all the flawsomeness, another Robert Ohado quote, I like, if I do remember, I will quote people, with all the flawsomeness that we have, everything has a right to be here. And what's so beautiful about our horses, they allow everything about us to be here as long as we're congruent about it, as long as we're not trying it to hide, as long as we're not trying the fake it till you make it crap, because we look incongruent when we feel something on the inside and we put up our makeup and we put up our wall and we pretend somebody we're not. That's when our horses become unhelpful, because they're scared of us. I don't necessarily believe that they particularly know what's going on, but because we are incongruent, our energy is off, our intent is off, we're missing clarity and certainty because we're scared ourselves. Therefore, we cannot provide certainty for our horse, and our horse goes into self-preservation and self-protection. If that happens on a consistent basis, that's when we have residual tension, or it has happened in the past and our horse goes back to what they already know. It's that myelated highway that our brain is following. What we've always done, we will always do, unless we're looking for a new pathway. And in the beginning, it's not an Autobahn, right? Those pathways that we take that are unconscious, like our cave woman, right? This is lizard brain. We go there, right? Autobahn, straight, 4-lane highway, we're off to the races, right? Those paths that you're going to have to take in order to enjoy your horsewomanship, in order to enjoy your horse, in order to enjoy the path, in order to enjoy the journey, in order to find the wonder and the mystery, and like, wow, I just screwed up. Wow. I cannot believe how our brain functions and why I did that, but here I am. That's what I did. Okay, what can I do now? And that's where our horses come in again, because they're so forgiving. They always will give us another chance. They will always show up again if we are willing to show up again. And in the end, the only question is, are you willing to show up? The only question. If you're willing to show up, you'll find a way. You find that little pathway, and in my mind, I see when I was a kid, I can't remember where we were, but we were pretty high up on a mountain in southern Germany, and there were rocks, and it was a tiny little narrow pathway, and I remember there was an Edelweiss, which is an alpine plant. I don't know what it's called in English, and there was a blue plant with beautiful blue flowers, which I can't remember the name right now either. But it was a tiny little path, and there were a lot of rocks, and that's what I see. That path, that's what I see right now. I see when I was in Phoenix, there is a mountain in the middle of Phoenix, and it is called, it used to be Squaw Mountain, and the name was changed into, it starts with a P. It was the first Native American woman that died in the Gulf War, I believe. I will look it up and post it, because it's important that the name was changed. And that somebody was honored with putting her name in connection with this mountain. And so I thought it would be super easy to go up that mountain. And I was about halfway up, and I sat on the bench because I was literally out of breath. And I sat there. And, lots of people go up and down this mountain, and people actually jog. They run up and down this mountain. And there was this gentleman, he was Mexican, and he was really, really, really heavy, probably about 300 pounds. He was wearing a black shirt and black shorts, and he was just sweating so hard, and he was doing every step, and every step he took it. And I was just so proud of him, and I was just so amazed that somebody took on this journey to climb this mountain. I'm 120 pounds lately, not 110 anymore. And, here is somebody that weighs about 3 times the size of me, still just only has 2 legs, and makes his way up this mountain. And as he came by, he said to me, "Oh, too many tortillas, I tell you, too many tortillas." And I laughed at him, and it was just a cute little encounter. And then I watched him, and I thought, what if he stumbles and falls? Can he catch himself? And so I waited for a while, because I did not want to pass him, because I thought that would have been rude. And so I went up that mountain, and I was behind him the entire time, and I kind of kept my distance. And then he stopped, and he waited to come for me, and he said, when I was in prison, and he was heavily tattooed, he obviously had gang tattoos with the teardrops on his cheek and around his neck. I mean, heavy from head to toe, totally tattooed. And he said to me, when I came out of prison, when I was in prison, I promised myself I would climb this mountain. and I would change my life. And my girlfriend, I'm gonna cry, try not to cry. My girlfriend is waiting down there with cucumbers and water because I want to lose weight. And he made his way up there, and that last piece going up that mountain, it's really hard. It's, you have to go over boulders and squeeze yourself through and stuff. And he was up there for quite a while, and then I saw him going down, and I thought, you know what, I'll just keep an eye on him, because I was worried. I literally, the first part going down that mountain, I got scared. I scooched down that mountain on my butt for a part of it. I didn't try to stay upright, because I thought, if I slip, I'm gonna be toast. And so I was behind him, and about halfway down the mountain, he stopped again, and he said to me, you know that you're the reason why I made it up to that mountain, because you were behind me, and I could feel that you were my guardian angel. And as we were standing there, and I was just so flabbergasted, this lady in front of us stumbled and fell. She ran down the mountain, and she just cut herself really badly. I mean, she had like rocks and pebbles, you know, stuck in her skin, and she just fell and cried and screamed. And he helped her for the rest of our journey. He helped her down that mountain. And to me, you know, that's what it is about, that journey and helping each other. And when we're talking about our horse, it's literally helping each other, because when you show up and do the best for your horse, even if you stumble and fall, even if you make a mistake, even if your horse gets scared, even if your horse gets busy and bossy and says, you're not my lead today, it's okay, because you can do it again the next day, and you can grow and prosper, and your horse will support you in that journey. I have seen it over and over and over again. When I went through my divorce, and I always say my divorce, I was married twice, and I got divorced twice. Once I filed for divorce, and the second time my now ex-husband filed for divorce. And the moment I got the papers, I went to the bathroom, and my wedding ring that wasn't coming off anymore fell into the sink, and the relationship was done. My horses were horrible. They trampled all over me. They pushed on me, they prodded on me. And why did they do that? Because I had to learn to set boundaries. And Loretta said I needed to hear that today. Well, I'm glad you're here, Loretta. I had to learn to set boundaries. Am I great setting boundaries nowadays? Nope, I'm not. It is still hard. It still takes work. I still don't like doing it. I can do it with horses and with animals in general pretty well. With humans, I struggle more, and sometimes I struggle a lot, to the point where I sometimes actively discuss with myself that, do I have the strength? Do I have the perseverance to set that boundary? Can I uphold that boundary? And I've, in the past, with my health issues and struggling with, strength and energy, I sometimes had to say no. I just don't have it right now. But it was just right now, and maybe the next day looked different. And so whatever is showing up for yourself and for your horse right now, it's okay. I truly, 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 from the bottom of my heart, I believe it's okay. It's just not okay when you think it's not okay. You're just not making progress when we always look for what's not working yet. If you look what you already accomplished, even if it's tiny little things, you have a completely different outlook. And enjoying the journey, even when it becomes hard. I have a friend in the Ukraine, and I met him, of all things, in a Austin David Austin Rose group on Facebook. And the reason why he stood out to me was because he said, I'm from the Ukraine, and this is a rose bouquet I picked from my garden today. And look how beautiful it is. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to meet this person. So I PM'd him and I said, can I be your Facebook friend? I love what you said. And, you know, knowing that the bombing is going on and knowing that there's so many atrocities being committed, and somebody can still pick flowers and can still create a beautiful arrangement and can still put it online for others to see. That's what it is about. And we can all do that in our everyday life. We can do it with our horses, and we can do it with our relationships with humans. And we can do it with ourselves, because we have to have a relationship with ourselves in order to have a relationship with our horses and with others. And it's a journey. And sometimes processing baggage from the past, just like our horses, take time, but it's also available to us. And if it's hard, then reach out and get yourself support. This is, to me, this is really, really important. I was talking the other day to somebody, and the person said to me, you know, I've never reached out for help, and I never had help as a child. I always had to do it by myself. I hate reaching out for help, and right now I feel I have to, and it doesn't feel good, but I just can't do it on my own. And so this group is kind and caring and supportive, and you can post in the group, you can ask questions, you can share your journey, what you're working on with your horse right now. Like I said, you can ask questions. To post tips in this group. You can, spend a little bit of money and go and hang out with me for one of the monthly workshops. They're always $27 unless you don't get the early bird pricing, then they're $47, because I want people to commit and sign up and not wait until the last minute. And you can do the at-home self-study course, the 30-day course, where you have lifetime access and you can study at your own pace, and you can come back here in the group and ask questions. And you can dive deep, and you can sign up for the mentorship, where you get my daily support, and where we meet 4 times a week and we watch our horse videos together, and I give you homework and a step-by-step plan on how to go about it. And we also talk about self-development, and we also talk about how to move on when things get tough and when you feel stuck, and that there is always a next step that we can take. So support is available for free in the group. Support is available for very little money. Support is available for still a super affordable pricing for the mentorship. It's $997 for 10 weeks. So that's $100 per week. You get all the lifetime access to all the courses that are included, and I'm there for you daily. So 10 weeks is 70 days. So then we're looking at, it's like what? One of the Starbucks coffees per day, or maybe 1.5 or something like that. And you can get yourself the support that you need if you feel that's what it takes to get you to the place where you want to be. But my challenge for you is, don't give up on yourself and don't give up on your horse, and keep on going on that journey that you chose. Just because it gets hard doesn't mean you have to give up. There is that tiny little pathway somewhere, and eventually, as you repeat and as you get the hang of it, and as you see that things are working and that it is in you to facilitate change for a horse and your human, the path gets wider and wider, and then it becomes easy. and then there's where the joy and the excitement lays, and you can find the joy and the excitement along the way. So thank you so much for hanging out with me on a Friday afternoon. Barbara said the mentorship program is worth it. I think so too. I know what other instructors charge for their intensive programs, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it's the cheapest program with the most support. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. As always, Linda said, Barbara, my horse stepped on my farrier's toe. She quit. Now I have to do it. I don't blame her, though. She had to set her own boundaries. I don't know what the farrier did, but in general, when horses step on our toes, then it's a space conversation, and it's the farrier's job to have that space conversation, just like we have to have. Stephanie says, hugs from Vermont. Hello. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm going to take a 10-minute break, and then I'm going to show up for my mentorship students, and we're going to watch videos from all around the world, from Australia, New Zealand, to Costa Rica, to the US, to Canada, and in the morning, Ireland and UK and Germany. And it's a wonderful community. And if you're interested in joining the community, I have a couple spots open. Just PM me or put mentorship in the comment section. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So always be blessed and with lots of love, because love makes everything better, including our horsewomanship. Bye. Well, lots of love to everybody. Have a good weekend.